This video will serve as an introduction into truth. In the About section below, links to various articles and documentaries are listed in recommended order. This order is ascending from easy to proof, through to the speculative, where you have to use your common sense in context of the easy to proof. Valid, reliable and clear documentation is readily available, when the subject is mainstream science, and lies from our governments. Valid and reliable in the context of this video, is that of the common definition of the words as per the explanation available in Merriam-Webster. Valid, having legal efficacy or force, especially, executed with the proper legal authority and formalities of valid contract. Reliable, suitable or fit to be relied on. When you learn something that is very different from what you thought you knew, denial is a very common feeling. This is largely due to psychological trauma. If this sounds a bit extreme, and you can't recognize yourself as being a weak individual, just know that this has nothing to do with weakness. It is a common psychological trick, which protects the mind from dealing with emotions of that which we have been taught are very wrong. It depends, really, on what we have been brought up to believe, as well as in what directions our various psychological levers have been pushed at various junctures of our experience. If you can accept and appreciate the simplicity of the hardware we observe, then you are a step closer to accepting the truth. The first link is not necessarily the easiest to personally prove, or to comprehend. But it touches on an ever-relevant part of our experience, albeit not so much a personal experience, therefore it is not something that we are readily aware of. This first documentary is called The War You Don't See and is by John Pilger, an experienced war correspondent. He explains how all wars where we remember up until 2010, where the documentary was released, were engaged on a foundation of lies. Illustrates how enemies of all we understand and appreciate are born, shaped and suppressed by the mainstream accepted war machine that has been going on for millennia, centuries and still is, to this very day. If you understand and accept the nature of the message being conveyed, then you surely must be eager to know more, so that this does not just become a thorn in your eye with which you can do nothing but allow it, or attempt to ignore it. If you accept this, and anger overpowers you, remember that anger takes away your power. Appreciate instead that we are not whom we think we are. In The War You Don't See, in the beginning, John Pilger briefly touches on the subject of Edward Bernays, a nephew of Sigmund Freud. The next link is to the 2004 BBC documentary series, called The Century of the Self. This explains in great detail how the nephew of Sigmund Freud used the findings of his uncle to create the term public relations and use it for control of the masses, by steering their primitive need of sex towards that of themselves, a self which they could realize through products that they felt expressed who they were. This gave them the illusion of being winners, or the illusion of being a success, the illusion of being a part of something. An illusion which carries on to this day. In these days, many decades later, this worldly social manipulation is the reality in which we believe and rely. If you see both of these documentaries, and you are still not convinced that we are being controlled and manipulated on a grand and worldly scale, then consider the psychological trauma scenario. Ask yourself why you won't accept sources such as John Pilger, the BBC and history. Know that the few that control us all knows all about the human psyche, and how to conjure up the pawn that they need in this worldly stage, where truth is stranger than fiction. If you understand and accept these two documentaries, as well as understand the implications of the nature of these facts about the world in which we live, then the next documentary is for you. It's a 5-hour documentary that goes into great detail with everything from 11th of September 2001, all the way back to Napoleon times and beyond. It literally assembles a grand puzzle in front of your eyes. This documentary is very poor in image quality. The quality resembles that of VHS. But don't judge this enlightening documentary on its looks. It is the very best assembly of relevant factual parts of our history I have come across in my year-long search of what the thorn in all of our eyes is. The next links after these three, quite long documentaries, are links to articles of current scientific facts. These facts paint the pictures of a non-image, in that most proven thesis and popular working thesis, point in the direction of no matter. If you accomplish the hard mental task of accepting all the non-scientific information, don't lose your temper. With your presumably new knowledge of what we are a part of, I highly recommend that you read, and try to comprehend, what is being presented at Bryan Kemilas' Perspective Gallery. His writings and findings challenge yourself and your thoughts, in a manner where you experience the horrible simplicity of what's really going on. This is the very last link.